Welcome to Everything Life Coaching with John Kim and Noelle Cordeaux, founders of JRNI Coaching. If you're inspired to begin your own life coaching practice or just want to learn a little bit more about what it's all about, visit jrni.co. That's JRNI.co.
Hey guys, on today's episode, we're going to talk about setting in for the long haul and dealing with anger at the injustice of the world. Well, this sounds very dramatic, this episode.
I know, and I have to say I was in kind of a dark, snarky mood as I
Mm,
was, preparing for our time together, but the good news is that by the time I was done and by the time you and I are done, we're gonna be in a great space because there's
yeah,
so much good to look forward to.
I agree. I agree. You have what's your beverage of choice this morning? Is it coffee
Uh,
or something else?
I am drinking a hibiscus LaCroix.
Oh, nice. Okay, I
I'm
got coffee.
fancy.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I think we're taking this on because we really want to validate everybody's reality right now that we're
Yeah.
going through an unprecedented time and we are all settling into a brand new reality for the coming days and weeks. So, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think the most powerful thing you could give yourself is structure or slash routine. And if I didn't create some kind of routine or structure and I would just kind of went by how I felt, I think I would just kind of collapse on myself by the end of the day, slash my thoughts. So I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay because I'm implementing structure in my life.
That's awesome, and that's
Yeah.
really good advice, and it's something that, I'm gonna follow you with. I was sick the last 2 weeks, and so
Yeah.
I didn't really have a chance to fully contend with this reality because I was so sick. It was almost a blessing where all I could do was lay in bed and be like, "Oh my god, I can't do anything," and then
Right.
I started to feel better, and then I was like, "Oh my god, what is happening?"
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a double-edged sword because if you feel better, which is great, you want that obviously, but then there's probably going to be a side of you that wants to be productive and wants to do all these things, but you feel kind of like you can't. If you're sick, you almost just accept that you're going to be in bed and you surrender to being productive or getting things done.
Yes. So I got a jump start on the concept of surrender. And I think that that word is really poignant right now.
Yeah, yeah. And let's remind people, surrender doesn't mean waving that white flag, right? Surrender doesn't mean that
No,
you have lost. Yeah,
no,
that's not what we're talking about.
surrender is in so many ways courageous.
Yeah,
Surrender
absolutely.
is the long, steady look of understanding, okay, I'm a human. I'm living on a planet that's suspended in a universe, and there are things I can control and things that I can't. And, I think part of surrender is the responsibility to take action in the ways that you can.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, the letting go, the letting go of the rock and letting the river or your story unfold, it's extremely hard to do, but it's going to lower your anxiety, or else you're gonna be swimming upriver.
Yeah, and one of the topics I wanted to bring to the fore today is this concept of grit. And so grit and surrender in very many ways go hand in hand. And it seems like an unlikely duo because when we think of grit, we think of, forcing, of pushing. But when we're talking about grit, what we're really talking about is getting uncomfortable with discomfort.
Yeah, leaning into the resistance, right? It's not about, calluses on your hand.
No, it's experiencing discomfort and getting used to that feeling. And we're all experiencing right now. And we're coming kind of face to face with this huge reckoning. And I think one of the reasons why it is so jarring for so many people, obviously, this virus is very scary and there are going to be very real consequences like death for many people.
Right.
And this is and we're asked to stay at home. We don't know what's going to happen. There's job insecurity, there's food insecurity, and this has completely upended this idea of comfort. that we're all entitled to comfort, and we're
Yeah.
starting to see, cracks in the veneer of the hedonic commercials that plaster across our TV screens telling us what life is supposed to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. This has become a global trigger blanket. So when you say discomfort, it's whenever you're forced to sit still, whether it's this or it could be a divorce or it could be anything you're going through in life, stuff's going to come up, and that's when it gets really uncomfortable.
It gets super uncomfortable, and this is when our underbelly is exposed,
Right.
and so this is a time where we can really hone our skills and hone our muscles and saying, "You know what? I can not only survive a period of discomfort, but I can bend it to my will. I can make something of this time, and I can overcome it."
hmm So are we talking about some ways to work through this said discomfort slash grit?
We are, and I wanna give credit to Caroline Miller. She is at carolinemiller.com, and she is an expert on grit,
Mm,
and I had the privilege of training under her, and that was one of the main lessons that I took away, was that if I want to do hard things in life, I'm gonna have to get used to feeling pretty shitty as I go through
yeah.
them.
Absolutely, and can I just insert real quick, because I've never heard the term grit expert. That would be a great, angle for a coach, a grit coach. I've never heard of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and, that is the work of coaching, is championing people and, holding up that mirror and reminding them of their future state, because
Yeah,
that's what people flag out at the 99-yard line.
yeah. So does Carol Miller, her one of her things is, to change it up, correct?
Mhm. It's Caroline.
Caroline, sorry.
Caroline, yeah, and it's changing it up. So, our brains and bodies follow natural patterns. And if we're really looking for evidence of this, think about your wake up routine. Most of us reach for our phone and
Mhm.
we scroll through our usual sites. And before we know it, we're in the bathroom, we're brushing our teeth. And then before we know it, we're in front of the coffee maker. And we've done that pretty much unconsciously.
Yeah.
And if you're following this logic, you're going to repeat the same day
Mm,
over and over again. You're going to drive to work the same way. You're going to listen to the same radio stations, and you're not going to give your brain an opportunity to develop all of that new landscape, the uncharted
mm,
wilderness of your brain, where new
right.
experiences, new ways of being live when you lean into these patterns. So we're all being forced right now to do things differently because we're in this weird place, right?
Yeah.
So, just thinking about your wake up routine, what is one way that you could do things differently right now?
Not go to your phone, practice, breathing, maybe do a meditation if that's not what you're used to. Uh Maybe get on the floor and start doing some push-ups. Anything that is, new and different that, is not part of your daily routine.
Yes, and as we're talking, I'm realizing you've been forced into this with your snuggly little baby.
Yeah, all everything in my day-to-day is quote unquote, "changed up." So, I've never had a six-pound human attached to my stomach at 4:30 AM, so that is brand new for me. But it's interesting because my, like, what's happening in my brain is, new circuits, new, tracks being laid, rewiring myself. I'm learning to adjust and adapt, and all of that's happening.
What are the outcomes you're seeing from this?
Um, it's either, like, super nectar and moments of bliss, mixed with panic and how the hell does everyone do this? And, so it's a lot of kind of, 2 extremes, hitting notes on 2 extremes.
Yeah, guys, and so John is so beautifully and vulnerably illustrating this is what our brains do. They go
Mhm.
to the highs and the lows of, "Oh, this is the sublime," of, "Oh my god, this is totally out of my norm. I feel uncomfortable." So, when you hit those moments of panic, that's your brain bucking. That's your brain looking for those old patterns that it doesn't have an answer for because this is all totally new.
But, I gotta say it's been 1 month and, these days, it's less bucking and I'm getting into the groove a lot more than say, the first week.
Oh, sure, sure. So you get used to new patterns and new
Right.
ways of being very much, and then you are transformed,
Yep,
and
absolutely. I
that's the
mean,
way this
that's
thing goes.
it's technically growth, right?
Yeah, it is. It's literally growth. 100%, 100%. So if you guys don't have a brand new snuggly baby at home, some other things that you can do is to move the furniture around in your house, move the pictures on the walls, sit in chairs and rooms that you typically don't sit in, and make a really conscious effort to change those daily routines. And I started doing it going for an afternoon walk. I noticed that I always walk in the same direction. And my husband pointed it out to me. He said, "Hey, why don't we take this street one day?" And so every time I go for a walk now, I force myself to take a different street, to take a different route. And the outcome for me was that I started to tap into my surroundings more. And I started because I was seeing something new for the first time to notice detail on houses and flowers and gardens. And it really made the whole experience a lot more 3D for me. And I was able to unlatch from my brain and from my worry as I was walking because it was different.
Yeah, so I actually have a story myself. Just real quickly, my other place, we lived there for a year, and we had a balcony, but I never used it. Not one time did I step out on the balcony. I just thought it was kind of gross. There's a lot of traffic, all of that. We have a balcony in this new place, and yesterday I stepped out, and I decided to do it for my daughter to give her an experience of air and a view. But then I sat down in the balcony and I was like, "Oh, it's a new surrounding." And I heard wind chimes and I felt a breeze and I was like, "Oh, this is actually really cool." So speaking of new spaces that, it's always been there, since we've been here, but, I actually stepped out for the first time and now I'm gonna insert it into my routine.
Oh, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. I would love to invite you to keep reporting back and tell us what the different hues of light look like.
Right.
And really, we can lean into this all together as we're
Yeah.
kind of going through our weird apocalypse containment period.
Yeah, and what Noelle's talking about is being mindful, is using mindfulness in your, everyday life, in your everyday space.
Yeah. Yeah. And you really hit the nail on the head earlier when you suggested just jumping out of bed and doing push ups.
Yeah.
Caroline Miller also tells us that using your physical body and moving it hard and fast for 7 to 15 minutes a day
Mm.
has incredible consequences for stimulating blood flow to your brain, energy. So, we're talking about push ups, planking, and the trick here is to get movement going in your day as early as you can.
This is how I created a baby, guys. Sure.
Yeah,
Is it too early for this joke? Okay.
I think it
Uh,
might be. But
call people you don't typically talk to.
yeah. So, I was chatting with my little sister last night and she was super stressed out. And I said,
Mhm.
maybe we should start FaceTiming with George. And George is my dog. And we typically don't do that. And she lit up at the idea. And so we're going to start doing that. How about you, John? Have you been FaceTiming with your friends? How are you staying connected to everybody?
Yeah, I actually made a promise to myself because I always send, people to voicemail. I don't do FaceTime. My friend Andy FaceTimes me, and he's always half naked. I hate it. And I told myself, you know what? During these times, I'm not going to send anyone to voicemail. I'm going to FaceTime because it's safe and I'm going to engage socially. And so, yeah, I've been answering FaceTimes, and it's actually been fun because it doesn't matter if it's a 60-second call and someone's joking, or if it's a 30-minute meaningful conversation. Right now, the social engagement is like medicine. It's what's prescribed.
Yeah, it is, and, you can add me to a FaceTime call when Andy is half naked.
Oh, okay, I will. Perfect.
Just so
I'm
you know.
I'm just gonna let him FaceTime you so I don't have to deal with that.
Perfect,
Yeah.
just perfect. And yeah, and so, thinking about, I sent out a lot of text messages when this all first went down, and now I'm like, "You know what? I really need to go back through and physically call all these people." I had the opportunity to, chat with my cousin the other day, and
Mm,
we hopped on the phone. He got married last May, and I just really wanted to hear what was going on in his life and his world, and he lives out in Oregon, and he was so proud. He had just planted, strawberries and asparagus on their farm, and
mm,
I let him talk, and that's something I've been really doing a lot more intentionally recently is savoring people's stories and letting
yeah.
them tell me whatever it is that's going on in their world so I can really embody presence and get in there, and I will never forget my beautiful baby cousin telling me with such pride about his strawberries and asparagus patches. It's gorgeous.
What a great time, especially if you're a coach or you're interested in coaching, to exercise those muscles, to actually listen, um, instead of, vomit and tell people your story.
And that's the coaching skill that we really, harp on in the Journey Coaching Intensive is that stance of embodied listening because
Mhm.
you gather so much information that you would normally be shutting out if you're thinking about the next thing that you're going to say, and it's really a benefit for you to collect as much goodness and information about the world as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. What is this word called I don't smile? I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Smile. You've been doing that a lot more recently.
Barely, barely. Yeah, in the last 5 years, learning to smile has been a big thing for me. But I hear
It
it's good for you, and tell us why.
it is good for you, and I find it so interesting that you have such resistance to smiling because you love laughing.
Yeah, you know what it is so when I was a kid, I had very crooked teeth, and because I was the runt and my friends were always older, when I was in the breakdancing crew, I had to look hard because I was such, just a run, and everyone else they were 16-year-olds, I was 12. And so I think that started the pattern of me just always trying to look hard, and I developed furrows, and then I just never was a smiley guy. I think the combination of trying my insecurity of being smaller and then jacked up teeth, I think all of that made me, quote unquote pensive and non-smiley, but I'm trying to erase all that now.
An internalized scowl. I get it. I get
Yeah,
it. We can work
yeah.
on this. Yeah. So I mean, listen, we're all going through it right now, and we have a choice. We can be, as the title of your book heralds, a miserable fuck,
Mhm.
or we can accept our responsibility personally and professionally to be accountable for our own happiness and for our own mood and for the way that we show up in our households and for each other during this time. And I think that one of the big misconceptions about happiness and smiling and laughter and love is that if you're sitting there waiting for it to descend upon you, it won't.
Right. And
You
also,
have
I wanna remind you guys, smiling doesn't have to be a shit-eating grin. You don't have to laugh out loud. Smiling can be, a warming of your heart. It can be something that you're grateful for that generates a smile in your eyes. It doesn't just have to be like, pure laughter.
Yeah, it's the subtle nuance of life.
Right.
We did with one of our online gatherings a really beautiful internal beauty exercise where we took time just to look around the rooms that we were in and meditate on the objects and why they were beautiful and what those memories held. And then also finding a physical landscape to go to in our minds. That is a meditative action that will fire up that feel good hormone set in your brain.
Mhm.
Gratitude is tremendous for ushering in all of those wonderful chemicals.
Yeah.
What else? What can bring you smiles?
Moments usually, the human exchange brings me smiles. I laugh at very strange things, so things online make me smile. Um, but other people don't find funny, I find funny. So, people that are off center make me smile.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Leaning into your weird, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to feel, so self-conscious about being different in the world, and I've really, started to embrace it. And I hope that during this time, more people will start to do that and to start to lean into their own difference and to
Oh,
say, "You
yeah.
know what? Like, I'm gonna stand in it because it's what makes the world interesting for us
Right.
all to live in."
Absolutely. It took me 40
Yeah.
years, but, there's less anxiety there for sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna hit 40 in a couple months.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope this is over by the time I hit 40. That's my wish.
Oh, man.
I wanna see my mom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that I mean, this is a good segue kind of talking about, the anger that people are
Mhm.
experiencing. And I really wanna validate that, I know, John, you and Vanessa didn't plan on having this beautiful little baby and going into a pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, we had our South by Southwest trip with all of our coaches canceled.
Oh, right. Yep.
I had planned on travel after that, I had all of that canceled, and, you know, just kind of looking out at the world, at our governments and our systems and saying, we have the resources to make sure that all of the people in the world are fed and whole and have access to health and human services, and we don't do that. And it's systems and governments that are really dropping the ball for humanity and for our planet. And I feel a lot of anger at that. And
Sure.
I know I'm not alone
Oh,
in
yeah.
it.
I mean, anyone who's living kind of paycheck to paycheck, which actually is probably 60, 70% of
Most
us,
of us.
most
Yeah.
of us, I can't imagine them not being angry,
It-
because
It's
they're completely powerless right now.
It's real. It's
Yeah.
real, and on top of it, we're dealing with illness that's indiscriminate. This illness will take who it chooses, and we don't have control over it. There's nothing that we can do or that we could have done to be better at being humans in order to fend this off. So, kind of in the face of this, what can we do? And I found something that was really helpful to me because I remembered going back to a time when you want to do something and you want to make a change and you want to do a hard thing. One of the best things that you can do is to find a role model, to
Mm.
find models and examples of people who are doing and who are changing and who are building the world that you want to inhabit.
This is where the internet can be such a valuable tool.
Yes, absolutely. And normally, because I'm such a positive psychology head, I'm all over the International Day of Happiness, which is March 20th. But last week was such a clusterfuck that I it slipped by. I didn't post on it, but I wanted to bring it up now because I think that the tenets of International Day of Happiness are so important. And it comes from the country of Bhutan, which is a Himalayan country with a culture that's based on Buddhist principles. And those principles are peace, tolerance, and self reflection. Can you imagine an entire country that seeks peace, tolerance, and self reflection? If that were the US, things would be very different here. And this kingdom recognizes the value of national happiness over national income. And the way that this plays out in terms of gross national happiness is it's actually an economic index that's not based on material wealth, but it's a holistic approach that focuses on the spiritual well-being of the citizens along with their material well-being. So I wanted to hold this up as a model of a place that really does exist on this earth. And it's something that we can all choose to strive for individually as our own pillars and values.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I
yeah,
was gonna say that with everything that's going on, and whenever something like this happens and people start looking inward, it's actually a great time to create new definitions, so maybe this
yeah.
is a good model for that.
This is a great model. So the pillars are sustainable and equitable economic development, environmental conservation, and
Hmm.
then this is one that I really love: the preservation and promotion of culture
Mm,
and good governance for all. And in looking at the world in this way, what we're promoting is psychological well-being, health, taking a look at the way we use our time, championing education and cultural diversity, community vitality, and ecological diversity and resilience. And so, this is the world that I want to inhabit. And I can do it outside of a government, I can do it outside of a system. I can choose with my time and my resources to look out at my community, my family, my friends, our company, and say that I'm going to commit to sustainable and equitable economic development, to environmental conservation, to culture, to time use, to education, and to promote living standards for everyone that I come into contact with.
yeah, and I gotta say, as a therapist and a relationship coach, if you put action behind these things, you're actually building value, self esteem, self worth. You're gonna believe that you matter and that you're valuable a lot more because these are things that are, not something that you buy or wear, but they're things that make you who you are.
And we are all so interconnected, and we have the capacity to do this for and with each other. And
Yeah.
you will transform. You will transform in the doing.
Yeah, guys, I want to end with a quote that really hit me this morning hard, and it was by Leonardo DiCaprio, and I don't quote him often, but this is a really good one. Let me see if I can remember it. He said that the every next level, every next level of your journey is going to demand a different part of you, and
Yes.
it hit me because I was thinking, obviously being a brand new father, that's a next level of my journey, but also what's happening in the world, all this being new, this is a next level for everyone because it's never happened before. So it's going to demand a different part of you. And I think it's really interesting because what part of you are you going to grow and let out? And what part of you is this going to pull in you that's actually going to be a strength and that's gonna reposition you possibly and make you evolve and grow and be stronger as we push out through this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What John said.
Yeah. Guys, take care of yourself. Be well, and we will see you soon.
See you next time. Take
Okay,
care.
be well. Bye.
Ready to cut through the BS of becoming a coach? Snag John and Noelle's 6-step guide to becoming a life coach at journey.co/everything. That's JRNI.co/everything. If what you've heard here today speaks to you and you want to learn a little bit more about becoming a coach, visit journey.co, JRNI.co. We've graduated nearly 1,000 coaches and offer vibrant community, strong lifetime support, and world-class coaching education. We're fully ICF accredited and look forward to watching how you use coaching to make a bigger impact in the world around you.